Hey guys, Colby here. Welcome back to another Watcher of Realms video. Today we're going to go over the guild boss and some of the most important debuffs and buffs that you can have in your team in order to get the maximum amount of blood possible to get the best rewards. Of course, everybody is hunting for this thing from when doing clan boss, right? They're either hunting the legendary skill crystals, because you just want to skill up your heroes. And of course, this one, the legendary hero soulstone, which this is insane in terms of what it can provide. It can provide a free awakening to any of your heroes, and especially if you've got a lord hero, those awakenings can be precious. Especially if I want to call out Twin Fiends A1, the first awakening, it's huge for that specific hero. So these legendary hero soulstones have a very low drop rate, and it only improves a little bit as you improve your own damage within Nightmare, eventually reaching Nightmare 4, with the final chest being on the 50,000 blood. Of course, that is very end game with a lot of gear requirements and also hero requirements and strategy requirements. And with that being said, let's go over some of the heroes that I think are crucial in terms of what debuffs they provide. And I think the most important debuff that you want to have constantly applied on the boss, if you have it available through multiple sources, I'm gonna call it out, and it's gonna be probably the burning debuff. Okay, burning debuff is what it says there: deals 20% magic damage per second. Burning effects from different sources can coexist. This means that if you have multiple heroes within your guild boss team, you can have multiple burnings going on at the same time, and sometimes burnings can help you do improved damage depending on the hero that you have already, since burning will provide additional effects to that specific hero. And I'm just going to call out Hex together with, a burning debuff helps him do a little bit more damage to one of his skills. Okay, burning is not the only debuff though that you require in the game to actually start doing a lot more damage as you go through. Another similar sort of debuff where it's applied on the boss and does damage per second is the bleed debuff, with the Salazar, the one and only Salazar, doing that through his bleed ability that he can apply when he pops out his ultimate, right? Deals damage equal to 1% of the target's max health per second and increases their physical damage taken by 10%. So this is why melee teams are huge when you have Salazar also within your team, since he can boost up their damage, their physical damage that they do, through also applying bleed. And bleed is insane in terms of the damage potential it can do when you start it out on the boss, and it just gets rolling up until the end of the boss. And very similarly, other debuffs that can be useful, although not very easy to find them, is, I would give an example through Volca, but she's not the only one. It's this one right here: the vulnerability to physical damage and vulnerability to magic damage. These are debuffs that you can apply, and Volca applies the weaker versions of them. She applies the 10% versions of them, but if you don't have anything else already, you can use her in there. She also provides healing to your whole team and can keep your team healthy as well. So in terms of both applying debuffs and also keeping your team healthy, she's pretty cool with that. But another quick way to apply those debuffs is using Mari for the guild boss. If you don't have Mari already, it's kind of impossible, because we all get her, I think, one copy at the start. She can inflict slow on the boss, which reduces movement speed. That doesn't really affect us in any way, but when she does apply the slow, she also will apply vulnerability to physical and magic damage at 10%. So there's another way to apply that, especially when you're starting out. It's huge having Mari in there. She will constantly be applying this debuff on the boss, and you'll be doing way more damage. And if you ever pick up Twin Fiend and manage to get his A1, so 2 Twin Fiends, for whatever reason, his Awakening 1 does this: he can apply on marked targets that he does vulnerability to 25% and another 25%. So this is why Twin Fiend is such a huge hero for just doing way more damage on the guild boss. Another strong debuff that you could start applying, although not that commonly available, is the poison debuff, right? This does 1% damage equal to the enemy's max health per second, and this can stack. And depending on what kind of heroes you have available, this can be huge in terms of damage potential. But there's not that many heroes that can apply it, and this does not provide the additional benefit of that 10% extra physical damage that bleed does. So this is not oftenly used in more end game setups, as heroes like you really fall off, and are more actually used for things like the artifact material raid, or even one of the arena events. I think the single target arena events, you'll see a lot of Cukes in there and doing tons of damage. And in terms of the buffs, right, we covered the debuffs, but in terms of the buffs that you can apply to your team, one of the most important buffs would be through using Dolores. Dolores is the MVP, I would say, for the guild boss. You cannot build a proper guild boss team without her, and utilizing also the invigoration set. The invigoration set is used on all the supports, basically. At least I would say 3 to 4 heroes having this set, so you can provide one random ally with a boost to 10% attack. Plus Dolores by herself, when she does her dancing thing, right? This is her dancing thing, her ultimate. She applies 40% inspiration, which is basically 40% of her attack given to all allies in range. So you'll always see a bunched up teams around Dolores and just hoping they get the maximum benefit out of her, since she also can regenerate rage. It's an 80% chance when she is awakened to 5, and that regeneration allows her to do this ultimate maybe twice per shield cycle when the boss is going. So very strong in terms of buff. And another very strong buff is rage. Okay, you need a lot of rage in order to go through your ultimate cycles within the game, and having Eloin is the current meta in the game. Eloin has this very strong passive which helps you restore rage as you play through, and it does not require you to be actively healing your allies in order for rage to be refilled. This is just a passive auto ability that always goes on as long as Eloin is on the board, and that's why she is the strongest hero to have available within your team and for when pushing for higher guild boss damage. So Eloin is MVP, and another good alternative is Hollow right here. Although she does need to activate Light of Bliss, which is her ultimate ability to start healing her allies in order to start recovering the rage for the allies within her own range while she's healing. So although not as good as Eloin, she's still a very solid alternative if you don't have it. Me personally, I don't have either, so I'm kind of stuck with using what I have. But you can also use something like a Laurel if you have her, and she can be used there for both rage regen, but also from when you pick her out from the board, you'll actually recover some rage to your allies within range. I think it's 2 random allies that can recover rage, and it really helps them a lot. But she also has, I believe, an ultimate that helps recover rage to the allies within range. So pretty solid as well as an additional way to recover rage and get your team going and make it just a little bit stronger. And then other buffs, which I consider buffs, is having a proper lord in there. One of the best lords to have is Twin Fiend, which I covered a little bit, but let's have a look at what his actual lord skill does. And I'm gonna call out the top 3 lords and lord skills that are available in the game at the moment that really shine for the guild boss. So we'll go over here to the mage tab and find Twin Fiend just to go over his very strong lord skill, which is basically this. When Lord Twin Fiend casts a meteoric strike, all faction allies gain penetration increase, crit rate increase, crit damage increase for 10 seconds. So when you pop your ultimate, all of these additional buffs go onto your allies, and then he does way more stuff through his ultimate ability with focus fire. It's just a tremendous skill to have through the lord skill, and that's why you'll see him in all top teams. And then another solid example would be well, both defenders and fighters, but the top defender has the best lord skill for this one. Everybody else has wrath, but this is the lord skill that you want to have. So every time a faction ally is deployed, all deployed faction allies gain 5, 10, 20, up to 35%. So when 4 of the same nightmare faction are dropped, you'll get the top maximum speed boost, which is 35%. So that is very cool. And faction allies basic attack has a 30% chance of landing an extra hit. So this is why Toreador is so much cooler. But basically everybody else will be using wrath for this one. So people who don't have Toreador, they'll be using wrath. You still get the 35%, but you don't get that extra hit, which is potentially giving you, you know, additional damage to your guild boss run. Very cool lord skill. So all of these kind of buffs, you require them in order to go within, you know, beating the guild boss and doing as much damage as possible. But remember, you gotta have the same faction, right? You gotta see those up arrows when you drop down your heroes in order to optimize your guild boss damage. And then another faction that I can call out is the piercers, and having Araka as a top piercer lord for in there. I'm lucky enough to have both Araka and Twin Fiend, although I'm currently not using Araka for my own team since my piercers are lacking a little bit in terms of damage. Maybe if I had Hex, I would consider Araka in addition in there. But Araka does this. She provides the basic attributes which every Lord hero does, but also for every one tile away from the target, increases their damage by 5% up to 50%. So for when the enemies are 10 tiles away, you get a 50% boost to damage, which can be quite insane, both for guild boss situation, but also in general for when doing damage. And this is just huge, you know, damage potential. Other things that you can consider in terms of Lord skills, I would say, is in terms of tankiness would be this one, the North Throne, where you can apply a big shield to your team and help them survive. But usually this is not used over damage. In the guild boss, generally what you're looking for is healing and damage. You're not going in there with tanks, and you're not looking for lots of shields to your team. So that's why the damage Lord skills and bonuses are much more sought after compared to like big shields and stuff. And to close it off, other things that you will consider goes on case by case basis. Of course, when having these specific heroes, your damage is boosted to the maximum in terms of guild boss potential. And a very good example of this will be Setram, and it will apply to you depending on the heroes that you have available in your squad. You don't necessarily need to have them, but it makes your life way easier when you do have them. So Setram, a very cool example for this one is this skill right here, where he boosts the damage dealt onto shielded targets. And one of the big things that is very important in beating the guild boss, especially in Nightmare 4, is dropping down the shield of the boss. So when the boss is shielded up, every single of your allies will also be doing additional damage to shielded targets, and that is because of his awakening one right here. I believe, yes, when entering the fortress stance, grants buff for up to 2 allies within the highest current attack within range, deals 30% more damage to enemy units with shields, lasting for 15 seconds. So this is why this becomes so huge in terms of helping you drop that big shield as soon as possible. So that's it in terms of guild boss, guys, and the buffs and debuffs that you need in order to optimize your damage. I'm doing my best in order to try and get as high of damage as I can. My next goal is currently to hit 25,000 blood, which then I'll be able to use 2 keys and actually get the 50,000 reward when beating down Nightmare 4. That will be my next big goal for the game. But until then, I'm just doing what I can, doing Nightmare 3 and Nightmare 4 every single day, and slowly picking up the rewards that come out of this one. I wish the rewards were a little bit better every single day, but it's all RNG, right? So thank you guys for watching. Subscribe if you hadn't already, and I will see you in the next one. See ya!